Brendan O'Neill is the editor of Spiked Online. I hope you've got a mask on, Brendan. We can't conduct this interview unless you are fully masked up, sir.
I've taken it off just to talk to you. That's a very special occasion.
Very special occasion. Now, listen, we tend to agree on quite a lot of things, but I wonder if we're part company here because I've gone full tilt. I'm now pro-mask. Is there something wrong with me?
No, I don't think there is, actually. I don't describe myself as anti-mask, but I am sceptical. I'm sceptical of the current, the fact that it's happening now. I'm sceptical of the fact that it's mandatory. I always tend to think that's a bad idea. And I'm worried about the impact it will have, firstly, on the recovery of the high street, which is essential to the recovery of the economy, and secondly, on social life, interaction, viewing our fellow citizens not as disease carriers, but as people we can talk to and engage with and have fun with and small talk and everything else. So I think it's probably, in my view, unnecessary, and I think it could have a detrimental impact.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of share some of that, Brendan. And when I get off at the station at London Bridge and I look, there's not loads of people around, as you know, but when I look around, everyone's got a mask. There is something apocalyptic about this. It's actually quite sinister. And I think, wow, I'm actually living the very films I used to watch.
That's one of the things that does worry me. I mean, I wear a mask on the tube because it's mandatory on the tube, and also you do get funny looks from people if you go on the tube without one now. And it does feel dystopian to be surrounded by people in masks. But I think that's one of the things that's quite worrying. What it makes me think when I see people in masks is it makes me think I can't trust these people. It makes me consider them as vectors of disease and people I must stay away from and hide away from. So I think if everyone out there is wearing masks, it's going to alienate us from each other more and more. And what we need to get through this current moment is a bit more solidarity, is a bit more pulling together, is more shopping, more work. Otherwise, I think our society could be harmed even more than it has been already.
But here's the thing, of course. We're now hearing figures, Brendan, like 120,000 people could die this winter. And I know, again, these numbers and stats do divide the room somewhat, but there's a part of me that's thinking, do they know something we don't know? The fact that they were so readily, they being the government, were so readily encouraging us to get back to the shops, and then half a second later, now you've got to stick masks on. I'm sensing here that there might be something going on, and that's why I'm not taking the risk.
Well, I can't work out if they know something we don't know, as you suggest, or if they are buckling under pressure, which wouldn't be the first time this government has buckled under pressure, particularly in relation to the COVID crisis. That's the thing I'm concerned about. But one thing that worries me is that I was always of the opinion that there would be a second wave around wintertime. I've always thought that we have to kind of grow up now and realize that this disease is part of the family of diseases. It's now in the family of human diseases, and we have to learn to live with it as best as possible. But all I would say is that we should learn to live with it in such a way that we don't cut ourselves off from each other, we don't undermine economic life, we don't give rise to a depression, which is what Britain may well be heading for. So we have to learn to live with COVID while at the same time ensuring that we maintain the good things about society and about the economy.
What about, the obvious response to that, Brendan, is, look, if there is a 1% chance you might catch it, then wear the mask.
See, what that comes down to, I think, is people have different tolerance levels of risk. Now, I would say for older generations in particular, because we know they are most vulnerable, it's probably wise for them to wear masks. If you are a 22-year-old and you're hanging out with your friends in a park or a bar, then probably a mask is not necessary. I would like a bit more leeway for people to make personal judgment on these issues according to what they think is in their best interests and their group's best interests, and of course other people's best interests too. But one of the things that's most striking about this discussion, and the thing that's worried me over the past 24 hours, is how quickly people have nodded along and said, yes, make mask wearing mandatory. One of the striking things is that the left has spent the past year or so telling us that Boris Johnson and his government are a bunch of fascists, and now they are very often at the forefront of embracing every single form of COVID authoritarianism. They loved the lockdown. They want tighter measures everywhere. And now they are embracing mandatory mask wearing and raging against anyone who raises so much as a peep of criticism. I find it incredibly ironic, and I'm not including you in this, by the way, but I find it incredibly ironic that some leftists, some Corbynistas, on the one hand tell us this government are a bunch of fascists, and on the other hand tell us we must obey their every rule.
Indeed.
All I would like is a bit more scepticism about some of these things.
Nothing wrong with that. Brendan, always good to talk. Thank you. Brendan O'Neill is the editor of Spiked Online. He's cynical. He's a little sceptical about where we should go with this. I'm saying just whack the thing on. I mean, if there is only a 5% chance the mask might do something. And I know that there are, we could fill this switchboard now with qualified doctors who will say, I don't wear a mask because I don't think they do anything. They might be a minority view, but they would exist. And you find this in all areas where you require an expert opinion, that it does divide even within the world of expert opinions. But on balance, I'm thinking, do I want to take the risk? Is it worth me taking the risk? Why would I take the risk? And a friend of mine I was chatting to today, she's only, I've got to get this right, I would say max early 30s. And she's right now going through a really serious bout of COVID-19. I mean, this has turned things properly upside down. And I know that is rare in terms of age group, and I know it's rare in terms of people even getting it regardless. But when you read that, and she did a little piece on Sky News about it recently, and you begin to realise, I'm thinking to myself, even if I lived and got through it, which based on health and probability I would, I'm not sure I want to go through that caper for 3 weeks. I think that might be uncomfortable. I think that might be something I'd rather not have. Is the face mask going to stop that happening? No, not completely. Might it help or assist in stopping that happening? Well, it might do. And while there's a might, I'm running with it, guys. I'm running with the might.